I love the idea of empirical research. Really like to engage in it and read it and look at all the nuances that we put in our designs and statistical innovations. But I think in some ways that's a detour, and maybe we need to do more dreaming, come up with metaphors. And I'm picking up on a theme here that to me sounds really important. I don't think there's really that much to learn from capitalist organizations, whatever way we study them. I really don't think traditional capitalist organizations are going to go anywhere. They are inherently destructive. They will harm people and the environment as a way of being. There is nothing that will prevent them if they're not controlled tightly by government. There's nothing, in my view, that prevents them from destroying people and the environment. So, I mean, how far can we go with the anomaly like interface carpets or something? I mean, the only way they become green, and what is a green organization? The only way they've managed to define themselves as green is with CO2 offsets, greenhouse gas offsets. I mean, I think they've done some interesting things. And if you're interested in incremental change and you're not thinking about impending crises and apocalyptic problems that we face, ice sheets and plastic and insects, all the kind of stuff that is really coming our way from the natural sciences. If you're not thinking about that, we could continue to do empirical research and study the outliers like interface, but I don't know, it seems like there's something else that's needed. I'm not providing it. I don't think I'm providing anything right now, but I need to get busy providing something. But I don't know if it should be empirical research in the traditional way that we've done it, and even in the more innovative ways that qualify us for A-level publications. I mean, can capitalist organizations avoid being harmful? To me, it's an inherently problematic scenario. Political economy set up for private ownership and exploitation has very little chance to help people and the environment. It's for another purpose. And so if we try to transmogrify that purpose, we get at best grudging, struggling, incremental change. So maybe it's the indigenous communities that are off the grid in some way, that are alternative cultures that provide the insights. But I don't think going to Apple or Google or any of the progressive companies, other than to see them challenge the Trump administration, other than that, I don't see what they're doing that's really that helpful for fixing the world.
Thank you, John. We have, it mirrors the kind of paradox for groups like Environmental Defense Fund and Nature Conservancy that have chosen to work with large companies on the philosophy that if we can alter what Walmart does, we can have this huge impact. But is that going to actually change the underlying dynamics? We don't know. They've made that deal. Zlatko, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
I leave it to Andy to answer first, and then could I come after Andy?
Yeah, go ahead, Andy.
Wow, how do you know what I'm going to say?
I can imagine. I can imagine.
Well, just riffing off of John's point, the idea that there's a black and white capitalism not, I think opens up a line of attack that is distracting, because what is a capitalistic organization? We live in a version of capitalism, but American capitalism is very different than Norwegian, very different than Japanese. So there are many different forms. It's a very gray, not black and white idea. And I think that when I think about these questions, and a question that was underlying our agenda here today is, do we work within a capitalist system or challenge it? I think that I approach that question as a pragmatic one, and I've always fallen back on Stephen Jay Gould's article, The Creation Myths of Cooperstown, where he says baseball was not invented in 1896 by Abner Doubleday in Cooperstown, New York. That's preposterous. It was a game that was evolving over time, and he merely wrote the rules down as he saw them. Every set of institutions is built on the institutions that precede it. We have a system right now, and the idea of wiping it, and I'm not suggesting you're saying this, John, but I do see some people suggesting we got to come up with something completely new. Naomi Oreskes says we have to, or I'm sorry, Naomi Klein says we have to shred capitalism and come up with something new. That's not possible. You can never wipe the slate clean. So here we are now. Where do we go? That is the challenge before us as researchers, is what are the dimensions of that path? That's, to my mind, a formidable challenge for us as management scholars, and one we should take on. Was that what you thought I was going to say, Zlatko?
Yes, yes, I was quite sure about that. One brief comment on that, and then I add in my point I wanted to make. So if you look at the reactions currently during the COVID crisis, and the COVID crisis wouldn't the COVID crisis be a chance now to change the course, right? Radically to change the course, because everything went down, production and so on and so. Now it would have been the chance to radically change course, to go towards addressing the Anthropocene, radical restructuring of industry. Did it happen? I don't see it. If you see it, please correct me. I don't see it.
Well, I would say it's not over yet. COVID's not over yet.
Okay, but still, there are some programs done, as far as I've seen in the US, some economic programs, and even in Germany or the EU, which are surely more progressive than in the US, at least from the US government. I don't see it. So that left me quite worried and also quite skeptical in a sense in what to expect from current policymakers. So and that is now the part is coming, which I wanted to make, and that is you probably need something else. The state as such alone won't change course. I don't see it. The policymakers, they won't change course, which are in power, but we need, what Polanyi said, a social movement, a counter movement, a really strong counter movement, which is going against these kind of policies. And we already see it. We see young people, Fridays for Futures, the Sunrise Movement in the US. And if you would be able to study these movements, maybe help them develop towards something stronger, bigger, that might be a factor which could help change course.